Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Spice Cup. It is round number 6, and in round number 6, I'm playing against Julian Perleko. Before we get into that, round number 6 was a 5 p.m. round. There was no morning round. Usually it's 10 a.m. and 5 p.m., but today they only had one game because they made it a 6-day tournament instead of a traditional 5-day tournament. The reason for that is because, for whatever reason, of the many strange regulations of the chess titles, one of your Grandmaster norms, if you get one, needs to come in a 6-day tournament, not a 5-day tournament, not a 9-day tournament, but a 6-day tournament. I don't know, man. I don't make the rules. So some of these tournaments are 6 days, and to be 6 days, one of your days needs to have one game. So I spent the morning playing some tennis with Eric Rosen. There will not be a tennis recap. I mean, we mostly played for fun. It was not competitive. He destroyed me if it was. And we tried to play a mock set, and it did not go very well because I played tennis for a week, and he's played it for 15 years. So in this game, I'm playing against Julian Perleko. He's 2200 ELO. All I know about him, he's a St. Louis local. I don't actually know how old he is. Like, he could be anywhere from 18 to 24. But I saw he plays all the time, and he seemed pretty unpredictable. So what do you do when a guy has like 20 hours to prepare for you? And clearly the guy like does his homework. Well, you try to play something that would throw him off that you know well. So that's what I tried to do. Before the game, I was preparing a second go-around at the Nimso Indian defense. Those of you that watch my recaps from Washington Chess Congress know that it was a little bit of a disaster. So I went for a G3 Nimso. Now, there's a lot of main lines. The two main lines, Queen C2, E3, I don't really touch just yet, just because I haven't studied them thoroughly in depth with white when you need to know all of black's responses. With black, when I play the Nimso myself, I know like a line or two, but with white, you need to know everything because they could play anything. So I played G3. Now, here there are two main lines. Black can go for this very traditional and solid D5 setup, taking your pawn, knight C6, you play like a queen A4 or A3 or stuff like that, or maybe even something else. Bishop G5 is a move as well. And against G3, there's also C5. So there's C5 with knight C6, there's C5 and CD4, there's queen A5, there's knight E4. I was like, all right, I'm pretty booked up. I play G3. He blitzes out this move. Doesn't even think. I'm like, what the okay. That's just giving me the bishop. Like, I didn't even ask. You just gave, okay. Castles. I go here. He goes here. Now, I've never seen this before. I don't know how the hell that's possible. So I'm already like kind of mad because I'm like, what? How? And I guess it's just an experience thing because, you know, if I've played the Carl Common like basically my whole life, you know, of chess, 10 years. So I know all the little things. And even if I don't, I can figure it out. The Nimso, like, I don't know. I don't know. And I'm trying to figure out what his game plan is, because I have the doubled pawn. So traditionally, you know, he might want to play a c5 at some point, supported by b6, and play bishop c6, knight 8, then bishop a6, knight c6, knight a5 to pressure my c4 pawn. However, that's not really going to work, because I have a very strong bishop to control that. So maybe he's going to play for e5, knight c6, e5. And so I said, you know what? I'm just going to do the two simple moves of the position, which are knight f3 and castle, and then he played e5. And I must have thought like 10, 15 minutes already on move, whatever the hell this is, 9. Because I don't know what to do. And I don't actually even know where my pieces go. And here's why I say that. Something like this is really bad for white because you just double your c-pawns. And structurally, that's really bad. d5 I thought was also pretty terrible because knight to a5. And what do I do about this pawn? Now, I was always thinking to just shove it forward. But I didn't go for this because, yes, if my opponent takes on c5, that lets me split their center, and I can just do this, and I'm much better. But he's not going to do that. Like, I thought maybe he would go e4. Oh, sorry, I would play c5, I would go like e4 or something. The engine finds a way to hold it all together. But the thing is, it's really hard to come up with this stuff over the board. Like, what am I doing, right? Like, why am I throwing my pawns out there? Like, he's just going to go bishop f5, rook e8, take my pawn at some point, block out my bishop, knight comes into the middle. I don't know. So I didn't really like d5 either. I was thinking to just go c5 straight up, but that also looked dumb because of something like e4 and d5. I mean, what? So, you know, then I started thinking about bishop to g5 with the intention to just give this bishop up. and play solid like this. But then my logic was, why am I giving away the dark squared bishop when we have the same material, but I have doubled pawns? Doesn't that just inherently mean that black is better? Like, maybe not. Maybe I can offset this with my open file. It's just like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would I give up my dark square bishop? Now we have knight and bishop each, but I have double pawns. Like, the only advantage in the position belongs to black, it felt like, because of my stupid structure. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to play rook b1. Rook b1, rook b1. This move actually kind of made sense. Not like in the clip. Because, you know, he can't move his bishop. And if he plays b6, he really weakens this knight to my bishop. Okay, rook b1 makes sense. Fantastic. He thinks a little bit. He plays h6. So now I can't even... Actually, he doesn't think at all. He thought like maybe a minute on this move. So he's pretty much still in his preparation, which is insane. Because according to the database, this position has been reached twice. Ever. But, you know, he's playing natural moves. Now it's time for me to think again. At this point, I just got frustrated. So I decided to play a quick move. Because, again, the plans are endless. Nothing has really changed except for me playing rook b1. It turns out that in this position after e5, in this position, rather than castling, the best move for white is queen d3. Which, I don't know if that's... If you don't know that, I don't know if you can play it. The idea is to meet e5 with knight d2, which is a common rerouting idea, but you need to bring your queen up first so it continues to defend this pawn. You know, that's why there's theory. That's why there's stuff you memorize so that you don't need to come up with it over the board. Queen d3 seems to be the optimal plan because this way gives him a lot of play. So I played h3, played queen e7. Balls back in my court to come up with something rational, and I played this move, and I thought this move kind of made some sense, you know, maybe c5 in the future, de5 in the future, and then he went here, and I was like, holy crap, I'm much worse on move 12, because now he's just going knight a5, like there's no way for me to, because I want my knight right here, right, but then he's gonna go e3, and I had another idea, which was just like reroute my knight to e3, but I'm too slow. He just goes knight a5. So I spent like 25, 30 minutes in the opening. I didn't play it right. I got a crap position. So I'm not feeling very good, but I'm not feeling angry. I remember when this was happening at the board, I was like, I'm not feeling angry. You know what? I'm just going to play a little faster so I don't keep tanking my time. If I lose, I lose. I mean, like, what are you going to do? You know, like, I was sort of at peace with it. So I played c5. He jumped his knight into c4, which is a great move. If I play bishop b4, I just get trapped, which is really depressing. If I defend my bishop, I get forked. Or just get my rook trapped. I can play queen c1, but this move sucks. I'm not even going to analyze it. As I said in my other recap, I would rather get a colonoscopy than play that move. So I played bishop c1. I gave him my pawn, and I came out with my queen with tempo. Now, the logic here is that if he plays bishop to e6, which is still completely fine, by the way, at least now I get a pawn back, and, you know, the game goes on. I thought he was going to go knight b6, at which point I was thinking to pin the pawn. I was like, okay, maybe I'll win the pawn back anyway. But he played this, gave me the pawn back, attacked my queen, I pinned him, he went here, and I played knight c2. And I'm playing these moves rapid fire because they were played rapid fire in the game. And my idea is either to trade his strong knight, or put my knight on d4. He plays bishop d5. And I go out here, right? Because if I play like knight d4... I mean, knight d4 is also completely fine now, but I like this move because I actually wanted to go here and get his bishop. And then I'm actually not so sure he has a huge advantage anymore. Like, if I get the bishop pair, like, just so you understand, like, something like this, I'm not sure black is better at all. I think white is better now. Like, rook b4, some really strange configuration to kick his knight out. And then he repeated. He repeated moves. I was like, really? He repeated. And so now we have this very fascinating moment in the game where here I spent 10 minutes because I was like, okay, on the one hand, I hate my position. I would love a draw, go back to my hotel room, chill, play some foosball later. There's a cool game room here. Or he's not confident that he's going to get the job done. Like, that's also going through my head, which is a valid concern. Like, you know, maybe he'll screw it up. And is there a reason to keep playing? On the one hand, the position's not great, but it's not dead lost. But I said, okay, here's my plan. I'm going to play queen a4. If he repeats moves with me, I'm going to go here. If he plays a5, I'm going to go here. If he then tries to repeat moves, I'm going to go here. And then maybe I have this move. This is what I was thinking. I realized later there was queen d5. So I was like, okay, you know what? I mean, if we're going to repeat moves, we're going to have to repeat moves at some point, okay? Right? Like so I played queen a4. Then my dude thought for 30 minutes. Like, no joke, 30 minutes. And I was like, okay, well, if he's thinking for 30 minutes, he's probably going to repeat. And then he went here. I was like, what? What? Now, my original intention of this move was to play bishop e3 because this allows a trade of my kind of crappy bishop for his pretty decent knight. The engine here gives knight d4, queen moves, and rook takes b7. Like sacrificing your rook in order to take this. So getting a knight and a pawn for a rook, which I don't think I would have ever played. And it thinks that white is getting some compensation in the form of activity, like trading off that knight. I mean, I thought this was more human, and now my only responsibility is guarding my pawns. That's all I gotta do. Guard my pawns, survive the worst of it, we'll be alright. He goes rook d8, I play c4 to anticipate the movement of the knight, and then slide my queen back to c3. He prepares to double up. So I said, okay, cool, knight c2. What I want here is I want to play like e3, knight d4. So I want to do this. If he comes and attacks me, I'm going to slide my queen out to a5 and put my knight on d4. Okay, I'm getting back in the game. Queen e7. I go here, we trade. And now I was like, okay, on the one hand, I gave him the a file. On the other hand, I don't have a weak c-pawn anymore. I have this c-pawn, but that c-pawn's not weak. And I'm even starting to fantasize of a world where we get to an endgame. I trade this pawn, and I have a passed pawn. I'm like, dude, this is actually not so bad. I'm glad I kind of, shook it off early, and now we're playing chess again. And in this position, I realized that he kind of slipped up, because if I can trade both rooks, this is what I was thinking. I thought I was kind of in the clear. I mean, I'm worse, and I'm going to suffer, but I thought I could just defend this pawn for some time, play f3 at some point. Not right now, I would hang my king. And we would get out of it. And then he played bishop a4. And he was also playing kind of quickly. And he looked a little frustrated, right? He looked like, things weren't going perfectly. And that allowed me to just calmly get to this endgame and bring my rook back and protect this. Now, so I thought the worst of it was over. Now I thought I was still under pressure for sure. And the biggest imbalance here is these pawns and the space advantage. The fact that my bishop, as much as it has a job staring at that pawn, really doesn't have much of a job. That bishop is really sad. And here I thought of a way to quickly liquidate, to play c5, not let him consolidate. The idea being that if he takes, I can get my pawn back. But I rejected this because this move attacks this pawn. But the engine is a scumbag and just says, dude, you don't need this pawn. Go to this endgame down a full pawn and trade his bishop. Because your bishop is bad. This is me trying to explain what the engine is saying. Your bishop is bad, so if you can get to this endgame, this is a draw. If he plays something like rook d2, you play this, he won't win your pawn, you will win his pawn. His pawn is a weakness, and your pawn is an asset, even though I'm down a full pawn. I don't know how human it is to just beeline for an endgame down a full pawn. I suppose if I was a super GM, they would find this to be practically drawn. I don't know. I decided to go rook b2 and bring my king over. And maybe trade rooks. Now, I wasn't actually 100% certain that this endgame was holdable. I actually thought this might be really depressing. The point being that even though I win the race to the middle, which normally is good, he would play something like this and play c5 and bishop e6. I don't know. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to play knight c2, and I'm going to play e3, and I'm going to put my knight here, and then I'm going to play rook c2, bishop f1, c5, blah, 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 blah. And then I realized, oh man, I'm a little stupid. I got a little bit too excited. Because e3, even though I get knight d4, comes with a problem. And the problem is that I've weakened this square. As dumb as this position was, there wasn't too many weaknesses in my position. And here he played a nice move. He played knight d7. And I was like, okay, my plan to take over the initiative with knight b4 and c5 isn't going to work. He's going to put his knight there. So I played knight b4, which was my plan, and I anticipated this. And we would trade rooks, and I would bring my king, and it would, I would be slightly worse in the endgame, but I would offer a draw, and that would be the end of it. And I played rook d2, and I offered a draw, because I just thought that he was going to play knight c5. I mean, I just did. And he played rook a8. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, shit. Like, I didn't think he could do that, because in my mind, I thought, okay, easy peasy if he does that. I go here, and we just, like, I have a bishop. I'm good. Bishop f1. And then I realized, this is a horrible endgame. It doesn't matter that it's bishop for knight. Like, I just thought, okay, I get the bishop. My bishop comes out. I have massive weaknesses here. Massive weaknesses. To just, like, the evaluation kind of stopped at bishop versus knight endgame for some reason. Totally misevaluated the potential position. And now that he plays rook a8 and I can't play knight d5, he just brings all his pieces come to life, including his king. His king just walks directly up to my c-pawn. And here he plays bishop c8, attacks this. I have to go here, because if I play g4, he probably has h5 in many positions, f5. So, I didn't want this, so I did this. He now does this, because if I take, he has knight c4, and he splits me, and he's winning. And he just goes after my pawn. And I can't go here, because he always has rook a3, or, as he played in the game, king c5. So, I spent a little bit of time just shuffling. He took, and he ended the game in style, coming back for the pawn that looks defended. And here I resign, because if I play rook a3 or knight a3, it doesn't matter. He will, he could play b4, but he will also just go for this endgame, king c4, and I lose, because his king walks in, takes everybody. And, yeah, man, like, I was bummed. I kind of defended like a normal person, and then lost. But I really felt this, like, I played this game like I had brain damage. Like, I just couldn't think straight whatsoever. And this dude played really well. It's a really bad combo. Sometimes when I play like I have brain damage, my opponents don't, like, do anything about it. Credit to Julian for not shuffling and just taking the easy way out early on. Because he spent a lot of time on this, and most of it I felt like was nerves. He just had to, like, overcome the fact that he has a slightly better position. Now he has to take the risk of actually playing on. And also credit to this guy for, like, playing some shit I've never seen before. I mean, I've never seen this setup ever in my life. What are you gonna do? Like, straight, like, what are you gonna do? So it sucks I have to lose the game, but I'm gonna drink my coffee, I'm gonna eat my breakfast, and yeah, life goes on. But super strange game, man. Super strange.